After 96 appearances since joining the Toronto FC first team back in December of 2017, the 24-year-old forward and Canadian international in Ayo Akinola has departed Toronto FC. That is right, you're not hearing me wrong. The former Canadian international in Ayo Akinola has officially left TFC, as it is very sad news and unfortunate news to see that Toronto FC have announced that they have agreed to mutually terminate the contract of Ayo Akinola. And this is a player who's come up and been a true Toronto FC product, coming up through Toronto FC's academy, moving on to TFC2, and then signing that deal in 2017 to become a part of the first team at Toronto FC. And this was a player with so much talent who had the whole package to be an incredible number 9 and was being scouted by both the CanMNT and the USMNT back just a few years ago, and of course, Ayo Akinola ended up going on to choose the Canadian national team largely to the part of John Herdman, who massively convinced Ayo Akinola to represent the Canadian national team and to be a huge part of the side's future, which we all would have thought back then. Until Canada went on to play United States, a match that we will always remember that truly changed the face of Ayo Akinola's footballing career and his club career. Because Ayo Akinola unfortunately went down with a fatal ACL injury where he tore his ACL and he was never the same player, which is very unfortunate for Ayo Akinola because this was a player that USMNT looked at as a major loss to Canada and a striker that we were looking at to be the future of our national team alongside Jonathan David and Kyle Larin, and Ayo Akinola had massive things ahead for him. But since that huge injury, Ayo Akinola ended up going on to extend his contract with TFC in January of 2022, where the Canadian forward played 49 games since 2022 for the likes of Toronto FC, and he has scored 4 goals and added 2 assists. 6 goal contributions in 49 games just isn't good enough. And Ayo Akinola now is at a point in his career, is at that time in his footballing career where he needs a new change, where he needs a change in scenery, and where he needs a new club. You might be looking at this as very unfortunate, as sad to see Ayo Akinola leaving on a free, but for me, this is a right move for Ayo Akinola. This was the right decision for him to do. And you can tell he is obviously hungry and ready to make that move because TFC and Ayo Akinola would never agree to this if he wasn't. Because he would have just rode the pine, taken his check, and made bank at Toronto FC if he didn't have the ambition to go out there and continue to try and be his best self and have a great footballing career still. So I believe Ayo Akinola still has all the right things to become a great footballer. This is a man who is still only 24 years of age, and a player that was being scouted highly from both national teams. So he of course still has the talent, it's just he needs to have that manager, that club, the scenery that is able to revive it and bring it out of him once again and bring that hunger for the game out of him once again. Because Ayo Akinola has that ability in there somewhere, it's just being able to unlock it once again. Because after you have a major injury, you're not the same player sometimes. Maybe you're a bit hesitant to tackle. Maybe you're a bit scared of going on for a 1v1 or a 50-50 challenge. Those are things that affect you mentally after a major injury. Those 50-50 tackles, those 50-50 challenges, and maybe sometimes like that, Ayo Akinola is affecting him. But those things are going to change under a different manager, are going to change at a different club, and hopefully moving to a different side might be able to get the best out of Ayo Akinola. Some things for different players, you go to a different side and you get a fresh air, a fresh sense of scenery, a new club. He's been there his whole life. After he's played with TFC too, he has been there since he was a young kid. Maybe just a change, a new side, a new club, a new league might get the best out of Ayo Akinola, and he needs to be starting and finding a place that he can call home. And I think the CPL is going to be the best league for that. But looking back at Ayo Akinola, before we dive into the CPL, John Herdman, the Canadian national team coach, for me, was going to be the player or the manager that solved Ayo Akinola's problems, that fixed Ayo Akinola, that brought the life out of Ayo Akinola once again once he joined Toronto FC, because that was the manager that wanted him so badly for the Canadian national team, that recruited him and captained him. And the fact that Ayo Akinola wasn't able to get the best out of himself under John Herdman just shows me he truly needs to change his scenery. And he is going to get that now after leaving TFC. And like I said, the Canadian Premier League for me is the place for Ayo Akinola. But I don't think he's going to go to a place like Valor or a place like York. That's just, no offense to York, no offense to Valor. For me, they're not teams who are going to challenge up the table or are going to challenge to win a Canadian Premier League title. And Ayo Akinola obviously still has the hunger for the game. That's why he's left Toronto FC and mutually agreed to leave. For me, we've seen it with the likes of Manjikar James. We've seen it with Dominic Sator. We've seen it with a lot of the top players in the CPL who have gone on to make bigger things. You join a top side, you play for a top side, and you compete to win titles if you have that ambition to leave the league and to be a path leader for players in the Canadian Premier League. And I think Ayo Akinola is definitely going to do that. He's 24 years old. He has a lot under him. This is a guy who's still the same age as Theo Bair, who is killing it at the national team level for the likes of Canada and smashing it for Motherwell. And Ayo Akinola still has a lot to give. The problem for me is, at the top end of the Canadian Premier League, who needs a striker? Who is calling out for a striker? Because right now, you look at Forge, who are by doubtedly the best side in the league. You look at manager Bobby Smirniotis, is by far the best manager in the league, up there Tommy Wheeldon Jr., and he doesn't have the best squad, but he has some phenomenal players, especially at number 9. Taron Campbell, a 25-year-old Canadian as well. You have Jordan Hamilton, a 28-year-old Canadian. Two very experienced CPL strikers who are both Canadian and very exciting. And I don't think Bobby Smirniotis is the type of manager to splash out the money and go recruit a big name like Ayo Akinola at this point of the year and this far into the season. Tommy Wheeldon Jr. is at an interesting place with his side of Cavalry. I think this might be a side Ayo might be intrigued in. Because you look up front for them, Meyer Bevan, of course, can't be playing for them, out for the season. But then you have Malcolm Shaw, who came in from Atletico Ottawa, or from across from other CPL sides. And he's had a rough go of things for goal-scoring struns. He's not a guy who I think you can reliably say is going to notch you 10, 15 goals and help you win a CPL title. He could prove me wrong. I hope he does. But he's just not that guy. And Tobias Warszewski has looked like he's really broken out, and he looks very exciting, scoring in the past couple of games for Cavalry, and might just be that guy for Cavalry up front. But I think if he's going to go to a side higher up the table, it's going to be something like Cavalry FC. Vancouver FC, you got the likes of Alejandro Diaz, who's already there. I don't think Ayo goes there. Rion Moore is already out on the coast. And if you look at HFX and the other sides in the league, I don't think he goes there. I think he goes to one of Forge or Cavalry, and I think it's going to be interesting to see where Ayo Akinola ends up. I also think going to Scotland is a very interesting potential for Ayo Akinola personally, because you look at Scotland, there's been lots of exciting Canadians who have done well there as well. Victor Laturi, he's had a rough go of things right now, but he's there. You have the likes of Harry Payton, who's revived his career. Theo Bair's had a sensational season and has revived his footballing career. You have the likes of David Witherspoon, Scott Arfield. You have so many Canadians who have killed it in Scotland. So I think Scotland is also a very interesting option for Ayo Akinola. But I'd love to see him come to the Canadian Premier League and he'd be that poster boy. He would be the star of the league. And I think he would love that for his ego, and I think he'd be able to live up to it. I'm not saying he is a big ego player, but I'm just saying sometimes those players are going to want to step in the league, are going to want to put it all in their back, and I think Ayo Akinola could do that, and I'd love to see him end up at Cavalry, because I think Tommy Wheeldon Jr.'s setup would be able to get the best out of Ayo Akinola. Let me know what you guys think down below. Where should Ayo Akinola go? Where would you like to see him end up in the Canadian Premier League? Because I think it would be very interesting. Should he go to the CPL? Should he go abroad? Should he stay in the MLS? Let me know down below in the comments. Make sure to drop a like and make sure to let me know if you guys are enjoying the content as well, because I'm trying to get it out there as much as possible. And make sure to hit that sub button, guys, because we're getting so much closer to 300 subs, and it means the absolute world to me, guys. So see you guys for the next one. Peace.